This is a production of West Virginia Public Broadcasting.
Support for the Legislature Today is provided by West Virginia University, offering education, healthcare, and the opportunity to achieve career success since 1867. Information at wvu.edu. Embassy Suites by Hilton Charleston, an all-suite hotel and conference center minutes from Yeager Airport and Capital Markets. Reservations and brasserie dining information available at hilton.com.
Solar Holler, supporting Appalachian communities and building on West Virginia's history of powering the nation by bringing solar energy and battery backup to homeowners, nonprofits, and businesses throughout the region. More at solarholler.com.
Welcome to the Legislature Today. I'm Jack Walker. This afternoon, senators heard from more than 10 speakers from across the country while discussing Senate Bill 545. The bill would ban certain food additives from school nutritional programs. In what lawmakers are calling the West Virginia Feed to Achieve Act, 7 food dyes would be deemed unsafe and not allowed as an ingredient in school meals. Those are red, yellow, blue, and green dyes. Parents and subject matter experts told lawmakers about the negative effects they say synthetic dyes have caused in their children's behavior and health. They also expressed their distrust of the Food and Drug Administration's evaluation of these additives. They argued that other countries have recognized the possible side effects of these additives and taken steps to remove them from grocery stores and use natural ingredients to color their food, while the U.S. has continued to offer the versions with food dyes to consumers with the FDA's approval. There were no witnesses or lawmakers who expressed disapproval of the legislation. Senators unanimously passed the bill to the Senate floor. West Virginia's legislature has a Republican supermajority. The Senate has the highest percentage of Republicans of any state legislative chamber in the nation. Before the start of this year's session, Brianna Heaney sat down with political science professors and legislators to discuss the impacts of the state's supermajority.
For a very long time, West Virginia's legislature was controlled by a Democratic supermajority. Then, around the 2010s, that started changing. In 2014, after a Democrat changed his party affiliation to Republican, Republicans had control over the legislature. By 2020, Republicans had what's known as a supermajority. Mary Beth Beller is a political science professor at Marshall University. She says the meaning of a supermajority is based on the state and its rules.
A supermajority is not a specific number because every single state has a different number of legislators in it. What a supermajority generally means is that it's a number that is large enough that it exceeds a regular majority, which is 50% plus 1, and it's large enough to override a gubernatorial veto.
Donna Boley is one of 32 Republican senators. Her party has sweeping control of all 3 branches of government in the state. But Boley finds herself advising the Democrats.
You just go with the flow because there's not much you can do as that no vote, but you vote your conscience.
And she's speaking from experience. For about half of her time in the Senate, Boley was one of a few Republicans, or at times the only Republican.
And that was 91 and 92 that I found I was alone down here.
Shortly after that, the tide began to change.
After that, we started building, and then a lot of members from the House came over and ran us as a senator. They thought that we could be the majority, and of course in 2015 we became the majority.
And there's a lot of power that a supermajority legislature has over the rest of the state.
It really lessens the gubernatorial influence in that legislation because they can override that veto anytime.
Republicans don't need all 32 votes to pass legislation. it only takes 17 votes to get something across the finish line in the Senate chamber. This leaves space for factions and dissent.
Political parties work very, very hard to keep their votes together within the chambers. If a party has a supermajority, then it does not need all of its members to go along with a piece of legislation. And so that means that not only can it ignore the minority party, it can also ignore factions within its own party if that defection is small enough so that it can still win over some votes.
Foley worries that dissent can begin to grow too wide within a supermajority. She saw the Democrats fail in part due to this division and doesn't want to see her party repeat history.
I saw the Democrat Party disintegrate, and that was sort of sad, but they started infighting. And when you start infighting, then you'll lose some of your members, fellow Republicans or Democrats.
Michael Oliverio started serving in the West Virginia legislature in 1992. Once a part of the Democrats' majority, he is now a registered Republican serving in the Republican supermajority.
The West Virginia State Senate may have the most lopsided party registration of any legislative chamber in the country.
And supermajorities, like the one in West Virginia, can expedite the process by suspending rules.
The big difference is in the absence of a supermajority, you might have to work with the other political party to get enough votes to suspend a rule, or particularly to suspend a constitutional rule, which requires a 4/5 vote. So once you have 4/5 of the body in your caucus, the other party really is unable to stop what you want to do if you are all together.
In the past few years, the West Virginia legislature has done this a few times to get legislation through the chamber faster. Beller says the downside of this is that the public loses their opportunity to weigh in.
Right now, our legislature has a rule that says that no bill can be passed unless it's been read for 3 consecutive days. And what that does is to give the public an opportunity to look at the legislation, to contact legislators, and to weigh in on how they feel about those policies. What we have seen in the last few years with the West Virginia State Legislature supermajority in the House and the Senate is that they will vote to override those policies and procedures, and very often pass bills within 1 day. Which really lowers the ability of the public to weigh in.
This was the case for House Bill 244 from October's special session. The bill placed a hold on extra fees the fire department could levy. Both chambers suspended constitutional rules that mandate that the bill be read on a total of at least 5 days. The Buchanan Fire Department was planning on issuing a fee after they were having trouble making ends meet and responding to fires in and around the area. When they found out about the bill, they said they dropped everything and rushed to the Capitol to discuss it with legislatures. But by that time, the bill was already nearing the finish line. Here's audio from an interview on that day, October 8th, with members from the Buchanan Fire Department from outside the House chamber.
Yeah, I'm very upset with how this bill took place.
Okay. Yeah, this bill was brought upon not in a normal way. So we left the city of Buchanan today to come down here while the 3 people on the shift were taking care of 600 kids in an elementary school.
Wow.
Where we should have been.
The bill was ultimately passed into law. In the most recent election, the West Virginia Senate lost another Democratic seat, taking them from the 3 they had to now just 2 seats in the Senate. In the U.S., there are 29 states with supermajorities, 9 controlled by Democrats and 20 controlled by Republicans. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Brianna Heaney in Charleston.
West Virginia code tends to favor local control of schools via county boards of education. Last year, lawmakers took an initial step to raise the training standards for board members. As Chris Schultz reports, they're revisiting the topic this year.
Any of this seems familiar. There was a similar bill that passed last year, unfortunately, another bill passed subsequently that contained the same code section and overrid this part of this bill. So that's why it would, so this is kind of a cleanup bill as well.
Senate Bill 284 is a near copy of a bill the Senate passed in 2024 to improve training standards for school board members. However, the bill was superseded by a similar House bill that Senate Education Chair Senator Amy Grady, a Republican from Mason County, told WVPB left out some of the Senate's requirements. That includes requirements that new board members complete an orientation before being sworn in, as well as focused training on fiscal responsibility and policy related to disabilities. The Senate Education Committee heard from Jim Brown, the executive director for the West Virginia School Board Association, at their meeting Thursday morning. He said the association had revamped their training schedule to better serve board members and more closely align with the legislature's higher standards.
Having worked in the system as a teacher, principal, director, and as a superintendent, and even 2 years at the State Department, I've tried to make sure that our training is very purposeful, intentional. We look at, especially our winter conference focuses on a lot of things around student achievement.
Board members touched on broad topics ranging from personnel matters to curriculum and financial budgeting. Part of the issue the legislature is trying to address is the steep learning curve many new board members have when first taking office, something Brown said he works to mitigate.
And if need be, and I've done it where we get word somebody's appointed on a Tuesday. If they're available on Thursday, I do that training individually in my office so they can be ready to be sworn in at their next meeting and begin to take their duties as a new board member.
Senate Bill 284 was advanced to the full Senate with the recommendation it pass. The committee also approved Senate Bill 558, requiring half a credit in computer science for graduation, as well as Senate Bill 581, facilitating involvement in 4-H activities during school hours. For the Legislature Today, I'm Chris Schultz.
Earlier today, Curtis Tate caught up with 2 committee chairs, Delegate Adam Burkhammer, the chair of House Human Services, and Senator Jason Barrett, the chair of Senate Finance. They spoke about the biggest pressing issues in their committees, including foster care and the budget.
We're here with Delegate Adam Burkhammer and Senator Jason Barrett. Welcome. We have here 2 committee chairs. Delegate Burkhammer chairs the House Human Services Committee, and Senator Barrett chairs the Senate Finance Committee. So, obviously a lot going on with the session being in for a couple of weeks. Can each of you kind of just tell us what are the maybe top 2 or 3 items that you all are working on in your respective committees? Senator Barrett, why don't you start?
Sure, thank you. Well, of course, appreciate you having us on today. Certainly as the finance chairman, my main role really is working through the budget and putting the state's $5.3 billion general revenue budget together. The Governor Morrissey has presented us with a balanced budget. So our committee, the Finance Committee, has had budget hearings for the first 2 weeks of session. We still have probably another week to 10 days of those. So as we work through those, we'll start to put our budget together. We'll work with the House to try to get a budget that will certainly be balanced and something that the governor will agree with as well. So what we're really trying to do in Senate Finance is be very conservative when it comes to passing bills that spend money. We have a couple of issues coming up in the next couple of years, including this year, where there's some big ticket items. Hope Scholarship is one of them. It's my preference that we don't make changes to Hope, that we allow the continued rollout of the Hope Scholarship. I think it's overwhelmingly supported by the people of West Virginia. We have, in the Senate, and I believe the House as well, have heard the people of West Virginia say that they want school choice, and I want to do everything I can to protect the Hope Scholarship. PEIA is another big ticket item. This year the state is going to kick in an additional $47 million to shore up PEIA. So those are a couple of things that we're have our eye on and that we're working on through this session.
Okay, Delegate Burkhammer.
Yeah, so Human Services, a lot of different programs, a lot of stuff runs through that department. But my main focus on the House side has been on child welfare. And so we've been looking at a lot of things. We've started rolling out some bills. There's still some more ideas that'll be rolling out, but we've really got to look at the child welfare issue. 6,000 kids in care, workforce shortage all across the board, foster family shortages, service provider shortages. So we're just looking everything at the table on rate increases if we can. Might have to work with our finance folks to see what we can get there. Might be a tough ask, but we're going to try to have those difficult conversations. But we're trying to look at everything from a structural standpoint. Is our child welfare program set up to function to provide care and safety for kids across the state? So we're just doing a deep dive into that. We want to make sure kids are taken care of, families are taken care of, and try to start making an impact on that.
Well, a few weeks ago when things started to get rolling, there were some folks who came here and they said the system is broken. It's got to change. What have your conversations been like with those folks, and what have you told them about what's possible to get done this year?
Well, there's a lot of successes in the system, and there's a lot of failures in the system, and we've got to learn from both. What's leading to our successes and what's leading to our failures. And many times when we look at our failures, it's workforce shortage. We're asking CPS workers to carry too many caseloads. There's only so many hours in a day. You can only get out and see so many kids effectively in that. So we've got to make sure we've got the workforce available to do it. Then we've got to begin to look at the relationship that the department has with the courts. And the courts are strained as well with timing that they have on their dockets, as well as attorneys available to oversee those cases. So again, we're back to a workforce shortage issue. So I don't believe the system's broken. I believe that there are a lot of cases across the state where the system works well and is functioning well. We've just got to continue to support that and bolster that.
Senator Barrett, is there anything from a budgetary standpoint that could help some of these issues that Delegate Burkhammer has raised?
Well, and first off, I want to give credit to Delegate Burkhammer. He's been a champion of this issue for a number of years, back to when I served in the House with Delegate Burkhammer. We always have to be mindful of the state's budget, and it comes down to prioritizing. And I think whether it's helping with foster families and those elements, I think it's something that we have to look to prioritize. One of the other things that I think is the Birth to 3 program, where the delegate talked about increasing reimbursement rates, and I think that's important for our physical therapists, our occupational therapists, and our speech therapists in the Birth to 3 program. They haven't received an increase in, I believe, 20 years or more, and so I think that is should be a priority of this legislature, but I think it's just one step of helping move our state forward.
On sticking with the subject of the budget for a second, the governor in his State of the State projected a shortfall of somewhere in the neighborhood of $400 million. What do the numbers that you see tell you about what we can expect in the next fiscal year? Well,
again, our governor did give us a balanced budget. What the governor has presented the budget a little differently than the previous administration has presented the budget. And in the past we have done a lot of surplus section spending, we have done a lot of supplemental spending, and the governor Morrissey has really tried to move all expenditures to the front of the budget, to the general revenue section of the budget. So that's where some of that $400 million gap comes from. So the governor's made some cuts to some of those things. I anticipate that the legislature will also make some cuts. But again, it's important for the folks across West Virginia to understand that we will absolutely have a balanced budget by April 12th.
You'd mentioned PEIA, the Public Employees Insurance Agency. This $47 million I guess supplemental that you're talking about, that is still on top of, I think it's something like a 14% premium increase for state employees who have.
That's right. So the state will kick in an extra $47 million. The premium increases for our employees will be 14%. The law requires an 80-20 split of those premiums, so the state will continue to honor its 80%, and the employee will honor their 20%.
And of course, you also mentioned the Hope Scholarship. I thought I saw something that said that the cost would kind of balloon over time, in the coming years. Can you explain a little bit more about what you project in terms of the cost?
There are some projections of what the anticipated cost for the Hope Scholarship as it continues to open up and be available to more students across West Virginia. I think some of the estimates are high because they overestimate the amount of students that will apply for the Hope Scholarship. I don't think it's any secret that a lot of homeschool families across West Virginia are not interested in the Hope Scholarship, and they're not interested with the strings that come attached with that. So I think there will be a number of students across West Virginia that are homeschool students that don't apply for the Hope Scholarship. It still will have a significant cost moving forward. However, I think that some of the estimates are a little on the high side.
I've also heard some concerns that some of these scholarship funds are actually going out of state. Is that a concern?
Well, when we have 29 border counties and a majority of our population living in those border counties, I would expect some of that. I think that we would always want to try to keep the money in the state as best we can, but at the same time, what the Hope Scholarship is about providing the best opportunity for a family and their children as their students. And I think some of that is going to require them to go out of state.
Delegate Burkhammer, what are some other issues that are kind of top of mind for you in your committee and your committees?
Yeah, so really we were just looking at overall health of the state. And when we look at a lot of things, we're 50th in, 50th in obesity, 50th in childhood diabetes, 50th in overall health. So we've really got to try to digest that. And ultimately, in evaluating the health, I believe we can start to evaluate our health care cost that the state are incurring. So short term, we've got to find some fixes for PEIA. We're all working diligently on that. Long term, how do we get healthier? And so a lot of work going on even on the national level, and I think the state's beginning to get behind that, myself included. One of them being the banning of synthetic dyes that are in our food. It's become really prevalent. A lot of studies out there showing the adverse health conditions that are coming out of those, as well as the adverse behaviors that are coming out of that, which leads into a whole other topic that we've really started to talk about lately is school discipline. And so when we talk about bad behavior in the classroom, it really can kind of come back to what we're feeding our kids. So two great initiatives started over in the Senate. Senator Barrett is looking at school food, but really the House is taking a more robust approach that we're looking at banning these synthetic dyes in a long term, and I think will have tremendous effects on our health here in West Virginia.
Well, but what might be some of the consequences of enacting such a ban? I'm kind of thinking about the sort of food that's available in convenience stores and, so-called food deserts, and a lot of people might not have access to, better things.
Yep. Great question. Definitely a concern when you start thinking about distribution of products and is it going to affect West Virginia? Well, when you look at the global economy and the global food distribution, you realize that these products are already available on the shelves in Canada, all over Europe. These formulas are already being created. So when we start looking at joining other states, I think there's 15 states across the country. A lot of other states are getting to join that. We're not creating a food desert or a food problem here in West Virginia. We're just starting to take back the health of our kids and our families.
All right, Delegate Burkhammer, Senator Barrett, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
That was Delegate Adam Burkhammer and Senator Jason Barrett speaking with Curtis Tate about what's going on in the committees they lead. That's it for tonight. Thank you for joining us. Catch the Legislature Today, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. And remember, West Virginia Public Broadcasting covers the session daily in our radio news program, West Virginia Morning, and on our news site at wvpublic.org. We also broadcast the daily floor sessions of both the House and the Senate on the West Virginia channel. I'm Jack Walker. Good evening, and see you here again tomorrow.
Support for the Legislature Today is provided by West Virginia University, offering education, healthcare, and the opportunity to achieve career success since 1867. Information at wvu.edu. Embassy Suites by Hilton Charleston, an all-suite hotel and conference center minutes from Yeager Airport and Capital Market. Reservations and brasserie dining information available at hilton.com.
Solar Holler, supporting Appalachian communities and building on West Virginia's history of powering the nation by bringing solar energy and battery backup to homeowners, nonprofits, and businesses throughout the region. More at solarholler.com.